Davis Hanson. Victor, good to see you. So, listen, I want to talk about these charges. Listen, Fulton County, liberal county, Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to tell you that I don't think the facts matter here. I think Donald Trump in this trial is going to be convicted, and they're going to sentence him to jail. How is this going to play out in the backdrop of a presidential race for the 2024 candidacy?
Well, I think initially it's going to earn him justified empathy, but if they do jail him and the other prosecutors follow suit, it's going to make it very hard. I think they all assume that the charges are going to be reversed on appeal, but they don't really care. That's 2 or 3 years down the road. They want to bankrupt him now, and they want to discredit him now, and they want to emasculate him so he can't campaign now. And the irony is, this is Georgia. This is the home of Stacey Abrams, who toured the country to try to deny that she lost the gubernatorial election. She even had people in the legislature that were disrupting the balloting. And that was, according to this new definition, that's a conspiracy. So would be the Hollywood so-called stars of 2016 that made a whole media blitz to tell the electors to violate their constitutional duty. Under this RICO statute, they were all guilty. So we've criminalized legitimate grievances to a degree we've never seen before, and it's very cynical. And the idea that he's going to post, what, $200,000, and you can be in Atlanta like San Francisco or any of these Soros prosecutor cities and go in and hit somebody over the head with a hammer and steal something, you're going to be out that day, but the ex-president of the United States is going to face far greater bail, as if he's a greater security threat than a common street thug. It bewilders.
Yeah, that a tweet is a criminal act, and that's in the indictment. Trump's surrender comes as the dust is settling, Victor, from last night's Republican debate. Sparks flying in all directions. Watch this.
I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here.
Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience. I think the American people deserve to know whether everyone on this stage agrees that I kept my oath to the Constitution that day.
Mike did his duty. I got no beef with him. But here's the thing. Is this what we're going to be focusing on?
This is exactly why Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman.
Larry Kudlow said this: only one candidate, Tim Scott, mentioned Bidenomics, and just one time. What were the other misses or hits, you think?
Yeah, I thought they all should have been hammering Biden a lot more, especially on the economy. They're in a difficult position because they want to ride the empathy that goes to Donald Trump, yet they're running against him. But I think they could have said something to the effect that maybe DeSantis, and he did hint at that people like him are outraged at the treatment accorded Trump, but they may be in a better position to help Trump than Trump is himself. And that might be an avenue. But I think generally, if you were a big donor or even a zealot and you were never Trumper and you wanted an alternative, I think DeSantis did what he had to do. I think Haley, if you were a Jeb Bush, Rhino type of establishment Republican, then Haley did what she had to do. And Ramaswamy I think he was by far the best rhetorician, but I think he took some hits from Chris Christie. The rest of them, I wasn't impressed. I was kind of shocked at Mike Pence. I've always had a lot of admiration for his sober, judicious kind of downplaying his own talents, but he really came across, I thought, as a little bit too evangelical, too proselytizing, too full of himself, trying to make a referendum on something that happened 2 years ago. So I don't think he helped his cause at all in that regard.
I agree, he didn't help his cause at all. But as Republicans took the stage last night to make the case to the American people as to why they should be running the show as president, Biden was, well, where else? He was on vacation, of course. Victor, you have a piece out today, and it's called "The Biden Klan's Con is Coming to an End." So how do you see this investigation of Joe Biden playing out, and is it really coming to an end? Is it going to be exposed?
Yeah, I think there's an overwhelming source of evidence. It's not just one direction. It's oligarchs in Ukraine have evidence. There's IRS whistleblowers have evidence. There's a laptop that has evidence. There's Devin Archer and Tony Bobulinski that have evidence. And then surprisingly, there's Hunter Biden. And when we hear that his lawyers were willing to call Joe Biden and put him on the stand, and I guess make him basically lie under oath that Hunter hadn't done anything wrong, that was sort of a leverage that Hunter was using against his own father. And when you add into that equation that these paintings, that why would he be painting when he's under such scrutiny to hawk his wares to sell influence to his father? So you get the impression also from the laptop that they have a strange relation. It's almost as if Hunter Biden is telling the Biden family, I'm tired of being blamed when I enriched you all, and you better be careful. If I go down, you may go down. And that might explain why you keep him close in the White House.
Hunter's with his daddy on vacation, of course, but he did fly commercial.
Yes.
So he had been flying on Air Force One, but he took a commercial flight this time. Victor Davis Hanson, I just want to point one thing out quickly. It's the bank records that Comer has collected that are the real initial nails in the coffin.
I think you're right about that. Follow the money, especially the taxes that were never reported.
Yep. Victor.
The income. I think that's absolutely right.
Great to see you, Victor Davis Hanson. Always a
Thank
pleasure,
you.
sir. Thank you again.